friends and supporters for all of us running for election. And I just want to say thank you to everyone who's here today. And you've heard from so many people why these elections matter, why we are at this point in time. And I want to thank Senator Chris Murphy for being the voice of reason, being the voice of outrage in Washington, along with Jim Himes, speaking up for the values that we hold dear. But the problem is that mentality has now seeped down into Connecticut because all the Republican candidates are drinking from that same well. They are all his allies, and they have the possibility of taking over the control of Connecticut in the governor's race, of taking control in the Senate, and of taking control in the House. And if they were able to do that, and in my mind, God forbid if that happens, we would see what's happening in Washington, what would happen here in Connecticut. We just cannot afford to do that because what would happen is all our successes, all the things that we have been able to accomplish, from bringing in a strong economy here in Stamford, to give the mayor the opportunity to make Stamford a thriving place, along with Greenwich and our neighboring towns. This is the economic engine for our state. We don't want to roll that back. We don't want to roll back the good gun legislation that is protecting our children in schools, making sure we don't have guns in schools for teachers. It's making sure that we protect everyone's rights, making sure that there's equal pay for equal work, making sure women have the choices over their own bodies. We need to make sure that people born in this country are citizens and that can't be overturned unconstitutionally by one person. That's not how our Constitution works, nor should it be. So we are in a tight race in a sense that we are with a winning team. I have been blessed to be with some really great people over my years, with our former State Rep Crystal Truglia down here, former Speaker Maura Lyons. Now we have Dan Fox, Pat Miller, Caroline Simmons. She's working for two, as Josh mentioned. She's about to have a baby, yet she's still out there working. So we are committed to being your voice. We are committed to being your voice up in Hartford. We're asking for your support because we are at a tipping point where you, not us, we're asking for your support, but it's you, the voters, who have a chance to make a difference in this election, to choose the kind of America you want, to choose the kind of Connecticut you want. It's up to the voters to decide. And what we want to make sure is it's our voters getting out the message, because in the final days, in the final few days, you're going to see all the dark money and the negative advertising come in to try and sway people that may not have as much information as you are because you're committed to us. We need to make sure that those who still don't have all the information, you got to get out there and tell them. Don't fall for those misleading messages that money can sometimes buy. We have the grassroots, we have the people, we have the numbers. Let's use it to our advantage. Go out and ask your parents, your family, your friends, your neighbors to come out and vote, and give them the information if they are unsure. And if they still are unsure, have them call us. We will talk to them. We will be there, and we want to prove to them that we are worthy of their vote and of your vote. So get involved. Why? Because you meet the best people. Those that want to be part of our system, part of this democracy. We want to make sure that everyone has a chance at their own American dream. And right now, that American dream is under attack. Don't let it slip away. This is the time. This is the time to make a difference. It's the tipping point. Let's choose the America that we want to be in. Let's choose the Connecticut we want to be in by getting out there to vote. Thank you.
Okay, and as I mentioned, with the state senate being such a difficult fight this year, we have a tie in the state senate right now. Alex Bergstein has been running a fantastic race against a long-term incumbent in the 36th district, and she wants to come up and say hello to everybody. Alex, thanks for all you've been doing. You've been running a great campaign. We really hope we can pull you across the finish line.
Thanks, Josh. Thanks, Stamford and Greenwich Democrats. It's not my campaign, it's our campaign. We have so much volunteer energy, so much positive momentum. It is just fantastic, and we are going to cruise right over the finish line. But I just want to remind everybody, 722 days. It's been 722 days since this president was elected. And, okay, well, someone's happy, but, oh, okay, good. Well, what we have seen in these 722 days is somebody who uses fear and anger to pit us against one another. And that is not who we are. That is not what democracy is. Democracy is we are all equal citizens. The great news is that we don't have to fall prey to the anger and the fear. We can make a conscious choice. Instead of anger, we can choose action. Do you choose action? Yes! We choose action because that is the power to make positive change. And when we all come together as equals, every race, every religion, every gender, every sexuality, every age, everything, when we all link arms together and go out and meet our neighbors and people that we've never met before and make them feel the same urgency we feel to make positive change, we are going to surge to the polls on November 6th. We're going to make our voices heard, right? Yes, yes. And that is how we're going to show Washington, and that is how we're going to show the world what democracy looks like. Thank you.
Thanks, Alex. That race is so important. We have this, it's time for Scott France to go. That's the bottom line. That's the bottom line. I didn't think she was going to say anything for us tonight, but we've urged her, and I need a little Pat Miller love, and I need her to pump us up. So Pat Miller is going to come up and tell us what it's all about. Thanks, Pat.
Good evening, everyone. I was told that this is a rally, so we're a little too quiet now. This is a rally because on Tuesday, someone said on Wednesday, November the 7th, yes, it is Wednesday, November the 7th, because we're going to have the victory. We're going to get up. I refuse to wake up to another Trump episode the next day. I refuse to be depressed. I know that we're going to have a Democratic governor. I know that Alex is going to win that Senate seat. Carlos is going to win his, and the rest of the delegation. Because I'll tell you, this last session was difficult. It was difficult dealing with the 1818 in the Senate. We couldn't move a thing. We had individuals who had been in the state Senate, they've been in the General Assembly for years saying that they had never seen a session like that. We cannot have that. Our state cannot move if we don't have the right players in place. And so we need your help. We know, as someone said, we're singing to the choir, but we need you to get people out there, encourage them to vote. You see what I have on? I wore this to the grocery store today. I have been walking around all day with this on because I need people to get out and vote. And so some of us have an easy race, but it's not, my race is not about me. My race is about William Tong. My race is about Chris Murphy. My race is about the Democrat ticket. So on Tuesday, November the 6th, we have the victory!
See? What you need in a rally? Everyone wants to listen to me. I want to hear from Pat. A couple more of the candidates are right on their way, but while they're getting here, I've got to tell you a couple of important things that I found out today that I think talk about the momentum that we have and the work that we've done as a party in Stamford in particular. I got the voter registration numbers from the registrar, from Ron Malloy this morning. We are going to exceed 70,000 registered voters in Connecticut, in Stamford for the first time. 70,000. That's a big number, okay? And we have over 28,700 Democrats in the city. That's up 1,500 from this time last year alone. And that's while the Republican Party has shrunk. There's 100 less of them and there's 1,500 more of us. So we're registering voters and we're turning them out to vote. I think that's so important. One thing that's also important to note, we have already received at the town clerk's office, Lita's here, hi Lita. We've already received more absentee ballots in this election than all of the 2014 gubernatorial election, when we actually had a hometown guy on the ticket. So we are turning out voters, they're voting more frequently and more often, and that is a great sign, and it's very important for us as Democrats. So while we're waiting for a couple more of our speakers, I want to kind of fill you in on what's going on over the next 4 or 5 days so that you'll know what opportunities you have to help us out, okay? Most importantly, we'll be running out of headquarters the entire weekend, starting tomorrow. Starting in May, we've been doing that, but starting then, we will have phone banks and canvases all weekend. We will be doing Get Out the Vote, targeting voters who we need to motivate to get to the polls. We're going to be spending all of that time. We'll have a full election day operation to turn out the vote, rides to the polls, everything that we normally do here, and then some. And so, because you don't want to listen to me talk anymore, but please come down, take a shift, do some knock a door, make a phone call, talk to a friend about voting, make a plan to vote. Urge your friends to make a plan to vote. It's so important that we do that on November 6th, on Tuesday. So we have our first candidate who just took the road down from 95, but he's somebody we really want to hear for. He's my good friend, and he's running to be the 4th straight Attorney General from Stanford, William Tong. Come up and say hi.
Hey everybody! Are we fired up? Come on, are we fired up? We were in Bridgeport and everybody's on their way, so thank you for your patience, but it's so great to be home tonight. But I want to start out first by asking my colleagues to come forward. Caroline, Carlo, Pat, I see you back there, Pat. Can you come up? Come up, guys. Please. Where's Dan? Is Dan here? Terry, David, Michelle. Dan, you look very Fairfield County tonight.
TV 12. 12. On. 12. On. TV 12.
I want to start by recognizing, oh yes, and all right. I'll do candidates too, but I was gonna start with our incumbent friends, but I wanna go back in time for a second. There's been a lot of discussion in this past week. This is a really tough weekend for all of us because of what happened in Pittsburgh, and we go to bed at night with the strongest gun laws in the nation because of this delegation and because of the former chairman of the Judiciary Committee, Jerry Fox. And Jerry wrote the post-Sandy Hook reforms, and those are laws that we have to hold on to and defend against and attempt to roll back. They try every year. And Bob Stefanowski, my opponent, many others want to roll back those laws. We're waiting for the other constitutionals to get here, but let me say a few words about my colleagues. My big sister, who provides such important counsel and support and smacks me around a fair bit. Patricia Billy Miller. I want everyone to know last year I added up in my mail piece, my franking piece, what Stanford brought home last year was $135 million. No city brings back $135 million. I know it still doesn't feel like enough, Mayor, but no city gets a couple $1 million to do the Boys and Girls Club. No city gets $10 million to do Mill River over the lifetime of the project. No city gets $70 million to do a new school at Strawberry Hill. Much of that goes through the bonding committee of which Pat Miller is chair. And Carl. Well, I'm going to get to Carlo in a second. Everybody knows that the growth of our economy is extraordinarily important, and very early on, much earlier than the rest of us, Caroline Simmons became a chair, and she's the chair of the Commerce Committee. We all know how extraordinarily hard Caroline works. She works so hard that nobody's running against her this year. So please vote for Caroline, though. Dan Fox is the other Fox. Dan is the chair of the Government Administration and Elections Committee. We are so concerned about the influence of dark money and super PACs and the effect of Citizens United. We all want to see early voting here in this state, and that is all Dan's responsibility. And so, as the chairman of GAE, Dan's leading that fight to protect our voting rights that are under attack across the country. And that's why it's so important to re-elect Dan Fox. Carlo Leone. So in 2004, I wasn't yet elected. I wanted a chance to prove to Ellen Kamhai that I was worthy of her support and investment. And the way that I proved it was Jerry Fox said, go run Carlo's campaign. So in 2004, I had the opportunity to really get to know Carlo. I designed that sign on Microsoft Word. We might want to change the sign at some point. But Carlo has held many chairmanships over the years, bonding, Veterans Affairs, and as chairman of the Transportation Committee, there's nothing more important, to our state's vitality and long-term economic growth than transportation. And if there's one thing you do on Tuesday, do everything you can to fight for Carlo because he has fought so hard for you. Alex Bergstein, amazing candidate, a force to be reckoned with. Scott Francis quaking in his boots in Greenwich. Let them hear you in Greenwich. David Michel went green to Democrat, but you have big shoes to fill. It's Jerry Fox's seat, Moira Lyons' seat. We know how hard you work. We've already become a really great part of the team. So let's fight hard for David on Tuesday. Matt, how many doors have you knocked? 6,000 doors. Caroline knocked 7,000 doors, man. Her district's not easier. We still have 4 days of knocking, Matt. We're gonna hold the 147th district, aren't we? We're not gonna give it back to the Republicans, are we? Are you gonna fight for Matt Blumenthal? So my colleagues are here. Let me just say personally, 12 years ago, this city took a chance on me. Ellen was very skeptical, but she gave me an opportunity, and mentors like Richard Blumenthal and George Jepson, Dan Malloy, and so many people in this city gave me an opportunity to run for a seat, Matt, that nobody thought I could win. And I knocked on 6,000 doors. I lost 30 pounds that I've since gained back, and we won. And we've held that seat for 12 years. And this city didn't just do this for me, it did it for Asian Americans across the state. I became the first Asian American elected at the state level in Connecticut's history. And on Tuesday, God willing, I will be the first Asian American constitutional officer in the history of our state. So I just want to say from the bottom of my heart to everyone, every member of the Democratic City Committee, everyone on the Border Commission, all the electeds, I am truly, truly grateful for your confidence. And it will be my honor, with all of your help, to be the 4th elected Democrat, the 4th elected Attorney General in a row from the city of Stamford. Let me just close by saying it's been a tough week. From the pipe bombs to the shooting of 2 African Americans in Kentucky, to the worst attack on the Jewish community in the history of our nation in Pittsburgh. The president is leading an unprecedented attack on our way of life. And now, shut him down. The president formed a task force to denaturalize immigrant American citizens. Like so many of you, and like my parents. And then the other day he said he was going to gut the 14th Amendment and eliminate the right of citizenship for native-born Americans who are born to immigrants. Birthright citizenship. You know who has birthright citizenship? Me. And so he would deny to me and to so many others what it means to be an American. And as I've said many times, if you're a woman, if you're an immigrant, if you care about the environment, if you're a Connecticut taxpayer, if you live in this city, Mayor, the President of the United States has declared war on you and your family. And that is why we fight. Are you ready to fight? Are we gonna win this thing? So, I want to start first with two attorneys general back. Senator Blumenthal was a state rep from Stamford. Senator Blumenthal was a state senator from Stamford. And Senator Blumenthal was our Attorney General for 20 years. He's an extraordinary public servant. We all have huge shoes to fill. And with that, it's my honor to introduce United States Senator Richard Blumenthal.
Please join me in a great round of applause for our next Attorney General, William Tong. You know, like everyone else, I don't like conceding that somebody else could do a job better than I, but William Tong is going to be Connecticut's best Attorney General ever. And I am so proud to call him my friend and to also thank somebody else who is not on the ballot. I'm not on the ballot. David Martin has done a great job as mayor of Stamford. Thank you, David. Wonderful to be home. Just in case you didn't know, I'm the less smart, less good looking, less charming, and less brief Blumenthal. Where did he go? Can't keep track of that guy. And you have a great delegation. And here's my point to you. Number one, William Tong is absolutely right. We are in the darkest period in our nation's history, at least in my lifetime. Yeah. Anybody who listened to the president at 4 p.m. today, not only about ending birthright citizenship, but ending asylum. Essentially ending asylum. Think of the Statue of Liberty in our neighboring state. The Statue of Liberty is weeping for America. So the rule of law is really at stake. Second point, you're going to ask yourself, and your children and your grandchildren are going to ask you, what did you do during this time? Where were you? What did you do to assure that democracy will continue? And everybody here will have a good answer for it. I hope you will be angry about what's happening in this country,
Hello?
vote and use your anger, channel it to make sure others realize that democracy is at stake. And I know my colleague Chris Murphy has spoken before me to tell you how much is at stake in Washington and how the nation is looking at Connecticut. The nation is looking at Connecticut to see whether we're going to elect a Democrat as governor. And I'd like to be able to go back to Washington next week and brag about the huge majority that Ned Lamont won in this election, because it is so important to Connecticut and to our nation. And the last point I want to make to you is very simply, you know, we talk at these election rallies about how we're going to win from the top to the bottom. Democrats win from the bottom to the top. We win at the grassroots level. Ned Lamont is going to ride the coattails of our state representatives and state senators to victory in Stamford, and Stamford has always been critical of statewide majorities. Make no mistake, Dan Malloy would not have been governor without Stamford. Just look at the numbers. And Ned Lamont is going to be our next governor because Stamford will come through for Ned Lamont. Thank you all for being here tonight. I love coming back to my hometown and to being with all of you. Thank you for all you've done for me over many, many years, many elections. I'm really proud to be with this slate, and I feel like I'm on the ballot. I'm very proud to be a Democrat tonight in Stamford. Thank you.
Hello? Yeah, TV talk on.
All right, Josh has asked me to take over the reins a little bit, so it's my honor to introduce my running mates. I'm number 6, by the way, in the order, so I always have to go last, so this time I get to go first. But I want to go to number 5. Kevin Lembo is just one of the smartest people at the state level, not just about the state's finances and our budget. He is the chief healthcare officer for our state. Nobody knows more about healthcare and prescription drugs than Kevin Lembo. We are so honored to have him as our controller. Kevin Lembo.
So William said before we came up, he said, I've got the microphone, I've got the prerogative, I'm gonna go in reverse order. So yes, he's 6, I'm 5. I always said to George Jepson, I'm 5, because he was number 6. So Stanford, it's great to see you. I'm gonna be really brief because I know you've been standing here listening to us. Everyone has said how important this election is. I don't need to tell you, you know it's true. At the convention, for those of you who were there, I remember saying, a lot is gonna get said. And the Republican Party and the Republicans who seek office, when President Trump says the stuff that he says and does the stuff that he does, if they say nothing, they are approving of his actions. You either need to be for that or not. You either need to stand up or not. Fast forward from convention today to today, it's been awfully quiet. They've tried to run away from the things that the White House is doing. Connecticut is on the edge of a blue wave. You can feel it when you're on the phones. You can feel it when you're talking to people. You know it's there. But if we don't lean in, that wave, if you've ever been on a board, you know that wave can get away from you pretty quickly. The alternative is a red tide. Ask the governor of Florida what that looks like. Red tide here, no red tide here. So I'm just here to say thank you. I love doing what I'm doing. I would never be there without your support. Way back to 2010 when nobody knew who the heck I was, but yet you took a bet on me. It's been a great 2 terms. I'm looking for a 3rd. Thank you for everything you're going to do.
Number 4 is Sean Wooden. So many of us supported Sean at the convention. Sean's job is extraordinarily important. He will manage, I think, $52 billion or something like that. And although it's an elected job, it is an extremely important job. And Sean comes to this with decades of experience in public pension management and administration. We could not be more lucky to have such an eminently qualified candidate, Sean Wooden.
Thank you, William, and thank you, Stanford. You have been great for me at the convention and the primary, and I know you're going to be great for Democrats on November 6th. And everyone said it's a really important election. It really is. And we have a terrific team. And in fact, can you guys come up here? Come on up here. I like standing on a stage with this team. We are diverse, we are experienced, we are committed, and to run with this group of people, I couldn't be prouder. And I hope you as Democrats know that you have a terrific team going into Tuesday. Now, on this election, all of you are here because you're really committed. Obviously at 8:20 on, I don't even know what night it is. Is it Thursday or Friday? Thursday, okay. It's gonna be like that for a few days. You're really committed. But in order, this blue wave that we talk about, right, we gotta get some other folks who are not necessarily as committed as you are to this effort. So over the next 4 days, I'm gonna ask that you leave it all on the field. We're running across the state doing our best, and our names are on the ballot, but it's only through the work that you have done and the work that you will do in terms of your sweat on the phones, at doors, and the checks you've written to support our efforts that any of us will have the opportunity to serve the people of Connecticut. So I can't wait to do that, and I just want to say thank you for all of your support for Democrats. Thank you.
So the next person, number 3, was my State House of Representatives Majority Leader, and I think sometimes we take for granted the office of the Secretary of the State. You have to remember the Secretary of the State. But her role could not be more pivotal than it is now. As the Secretary of State in Georgia looks to abuse his power and throw voters off the rolls there, as they try to do the same thing in Texas and Ohio, Denise Merrill is literally the wall, the firewall, protecting our most sacred right, and that's the right to vote. So you all know Denise. Can we give Denise a round of applause?
Thank you so much. You know, 10 years ago, before I was Secretary of the State, I was elected by my colleagues as the Majority Leader in the House. I was only the second woman to ever be a leader in the House. And by the way, the first one, Moira Lyons, came from Stanford. So, and I have to say, you send fabulous delegations to Hartford. I see Jerry Fox back in the audience. I see Carlo, I see Dan. You know, these guys are amazing. They all, along with William Tong, they were part of my delegation. And that's how I thought about it. And we did great work in those days. We got to get back there. We had 114 people were Democrats in the House in those days. We're down to 79. We got to get back up there. And it's the only way we're going to change any of this is if everybody votes. They have to see it as their duty, not just an optional activity. It is your duty, it is your sacred right to vote. Otherwise, it's democracy, use it or lose it. And it's up to us right now. That is the only way we're going to reverse the terrible, terrible things that are happening in our country. Just one more outrage from today. I just read that the president has ordered the military to fire on these poor Honduran people coming up from Mexico, to fire on them when they throw rocks at them. I mean, I never imagined I would live in a country that would even countenance something like that. I hope we don't wear out our outrage. I know every single day something new happens and you think it can't get worse, and it always seems to. But we've got to get out and vote. That is the only way to make a difference. So I know there are 300,000 new voters in Connecticut. I think we're doing our job there. This is the largest number of registered voters ever in the state. And many of them are between 18 and 24. There is a new generation out there coming to life. They've got to save us. We're counting on them. So let's go out and get them to vote. You know, it's all about showing up on Tuesday. I'll be hard at work, I know. I don't get to go to the celebration parties on Tuesday night. I'll be in my office hoping for that blue wave. Thank you so much.
So we saved number one for last. Number two had an extraordinarily long day, and so we let her go home to Middletown. But let me just say this about our next governor. You know, everybody knows about the issues. Everybody knows how important it is to grow our economy. Ned Lamont has brought 1,000 jobs to Hartford, and he's not even governor yet. But people ask me, why support Ned Lamont? Why are you voting for Ned Lamont? And I just say, because he's a good, decent, and honorable man. And in this day and age, compared to the Republican nominee for governor, compared to the President of the United States, that is plenty good enough. Yeah. And so with that, the next governor of the state of Connecticut, Ned Lamont.
Thank you, William. It's like an Austin Power movie. Number 4 introducing number 1. Number 6. Oh, sorry. Oh no, I'm sorry. Didn't want to degrade there. And I'm going to tell you, it's also really nice being close to home. We've been going to 168 other towns, and we're working our heart out. And I'm working with an amazing team of people behind us right here, and we're going to be there fighting for you. And we're going to win this thing. We are going to win this thing with your help, with your heart. And people are fired up. They're ready to go. They know what's at stake. And I got to tell you, the Republicans are sort of trumped up as well right now, and they're turning out. And that's why we're not leaving anything on the battlefield. And I just want to say 2 things. A, this is, a race about who we are as Connecticut and what we stand for. We spend a lot of time talking about our quality of life and, our amazing school system and K through 12, the beauty of our environment, our great up-and-coming schools, our towns, but it's also our values. There's something about Connecticut values that I love. It's something about Connecticut values that I'm going to fight for each and every day. It's inclusion and respect and diversity and fairness and dignity. These are things that are under assault in Washington, D.C. We're going to stand up, and how that impacts women. And the right to choose is on the ballot. Donald Trump says, leave it up to the states. Well, we are going to be the firewall. We will stand. Guns, AR-15s, the murder at the synagogue in Pittsburgh, yet again with an AR-15. Are you really going to elect a governor who has a AA rating for the NRA, who says we're going to roll back these things? Come on, Connecticut, that's not who we are. I'm going to fight like heck for our environment. I'm going to fight like heck for our values. And every time I say this, Bob Stefanowski goes, there goes Ned. He wants to distract from jobs and the economy. He doesn't want to talk. I'm happy to talk about jobs and the economy. I'm happy to have that conversation, Bob, because I'd be the first governor in 80 years who started a business and created jobs. A growing economy and a fair economy. Economy where it works for everybody. An economy where we stand up and fight for people. An economy where we have Obamacare. I was really happy. I'm calling it Obamacare. He came out and endorsed this the other day. His radio ad just went up for us today. And do you remember the decency and dignity of those 8 years? I miss those every day. And we're going to make sure that Connecticut represents those values. And I'm going to do everything I can. We're going to jumpstart this economy. We're going to get people back to work. This is such an amazing state. I'm so tired of Republicans bad-mouthing the state of Connecticut. This is a state I believe in, and I'm going to make you believe in that. And I know what we're going to do. I'm going to fix what's wrong up in Hartford, but I'm not going to turn my back on what's right here in the state of Connecticut, and neither are you. That's why we're fighting. That's why we're going to fight every day. That's why we're fighting with David Martin. And all the legislative candidates here, please raise your hand. Please raise your hand. Alex, raise your hand. I need these people elected. We got some hard work we got to do up in Hartford. I don't want a bunch of Republicans sitting on the sidelines just throwing spitballs. I need people who are ready to work and get the job done, turn the state around. I'm going to be fighting every day for you. Turn out on Tuesday, make a difference, show America this is what Connecticut's all about. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Ned. Really appreciate it. Everyone, thank you for coming tonight. Again, just want to remind you, there will be activity all weekend at the headquarters to get out the vote. We have a very important job of educating our voters about the ballot this year. It's a two-sided ballot in Stamford. We have to let everyone know to remember to flip it over so that they can vote for our candidates all the way down, all the way starting for governor, and then on the back for our constitutionals and our Board of Education. We have David Manis, our president of the Board of Education, running for re-election this time. We got to make sure that everybody covers both sides of the ballot, okay? It's super important, so we need you to get out to talk to voters, to communicate, and to get the job done. So we appreciate all your time and your energy. Thank you for coming tonight. I think we're going to go over to Tiernan's a little bit too if you want to do a little post-event celebration. Thank you, everybody.
Finish. Okay, TV 12. Yeah, TV 12, close the TV 12. Close the. Okay, TV 12, close it.